Welcome along to our next episode of Susty Talk, our video interview series with sustainability and energy professionals from around the world, designed to keep you feeling connected during lockdown and beyond. I'm really grateful to have Frantz from P&G on the line today. He is their Global Head of Sustainable Innovation and a Senior Director in the R&D team. So thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Sam.
How are you doing and where are you calling from today?
Doing very well and calling from Belgium, which is my base here.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And am I right in thinking it's your first interview with Edie?
It is. I'm very excited to speak to you.
And with you. But for the benefit of everyone watching, would you let us know a bit about your role and remit at P&G and how you came to be in your current position too?
Sure. So I'm Frantz Beznik and I lead the research and development for sustainable innovations at P&G, as you said. And what it means is at 9 o'clock, I do shampooing. At 10, I do hand washing. At 11, I do hand dishing. At 12, I've got a bit of lunch. At 1, I launder. And all of that to say that what I'm trying to do is reimagine how we make those tasks or jobs to be done in an utmost sustainable way. More importantly, I've set a mission for myself and for the R&D of the company, which lies in 3 words. It's to make sustainable, irresistible. That's the bet I'm making. I want to raise the bar and shift the paradigms, not make sustainability as a trade-off, but make it irresistible. Make the solutions of tomorrow so irresistible that people would want to have them like this, no tomorrow. And these solutions would be just simply more sustainable. And it's a big deal for us in P&G because 70% of our water and greenhouse gas footprint is in scope 3 and lies in the very consumer homes.
Great. And what's it been like to do that work during COVID-19? What are the practicalities of working in innovation and especially in FMCG? I'm presuming there have to be changes to the labs and how you communicate with your team this year.
Very much so. So it's because COVID is ongoing. It's being very tough socially and humanly, but it's also a good way to totally change the way we do work. So of course, getting the connections to the lab is more complicated, but virtual tools help make sure we've got that connection. And I would tell you, actually, despite the difficulties, I think it's actually helping creating more distributed work and more equal voices, because it's not if there's going to be a team of work, centered around a certain place in a lab in the world. The work just gets more distributed across the world. And for me, having a global job, it's actually through the virtual tools, giving me access, in a much more democratic way and easy way. So there's some bads, but there's some goods. And I think the distribution and share of equal voice around the world has been a huge catalyst for creating the progress.
Mm-hmm. That's something we're hearing a lot of as well. We definitely notice with our own events that it's easier for people from, say, Australia, Japan, the US to dial in than it would have been for them to fly in for the event.
Absolutely. So everybody's equal, access is equal, and we can have much more frequent touches, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I've got you on the phone today specifically to talk about a new initiative that P&G is spearheading along with a number of other organisations, and we've covered it on our site. It's called the 50 Litre Home Coalition. If you want to look it up, there's a lot more information in the story. But essentially, the initiative is a behaviour change scheme aimed at helping individuals in urban and water-stressed areas limit their daily water use. And as you mentioned, that's a big focus for P&G, considering how much water use lies in that scope 3. So how are you delivering that programme, and how are you measuring how effective it's going to be?
Yeah, so I would just start by giving a bit of background. 50 Litre Home is both an inspiration and an ambition. The inspiration came from Cape Town about 2 years ago, was under the threat of a looming day zero, the day where there would be zero water off the tap, literally zero water off the tap. The first thing in an R&D job when you are out innovating the future of question of water is to actually go and see consumers, immerse with consumers. And that's what we've done as a P&G team. We've gone there and really immerse ourselves in the life of Cape Townians, the life at 50 litre per day per person when there's no innovation. Mm-hmm. And that was our source of inspiration. We've seen beautiful long-haired women that cut their hair because it's easier to cut your hair than wash your hair when you just have 10 liters of water to do that. people would take water from the shower, bring it over the washing machine, wash their loads with that contaminated water into their washing machines, take that load again of water off the washing machine, put in buckets, wash floors, wash surfaces, up until that ultimate one bucket they would save to drop into that toilet, to flush the toilet for that one flush load per day. That was sustainable. That was not irresistible. And so that's what's triggering the inspiration. And when you look at the world, in contrast, homes today run at about 150 to up to 500 liters per day per person. And remember, Cape Town was at 50. So that really created the ambition and the challenge we set to ourselves, which is how are we going to make the homes of tomorrow run at 50 liters per day per person, but feel like 500 liters.
Right.
50 equals 500, sustainable, irresistible. And that's the whole innovation that now we can actually spearhead, basically, across the homes, across these different jobs to be done, laundering, washing, shampooing, and reinventing the way we use the water. We're asking very simple questions. Why are toilets today use drinkable water for flushing? Why lightly salted water off of our showers, and yet still soapy water, ends up as sewages the moment it passes the drain point? Why the same on washing machine? How much more clever we could be to make water, for example, reusable for another tasks, and stop using, for example, drinkable water in toilets. So these are inspiration, ambition, and the places where we feel we can actually act upon.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like there's a little bit more than behavior change going on there, that you're going to have to work with, like the utilities and with policy, and obviously there's other companies taking part as well. So what does that collaboration look like? And other than getting people to change their habits at home, what needs to happen?
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's a systems change, transformations, because the moment you change the inside of the home down to a 50 liters per day per person regime, which is our ambition, the outside has to change, the infrastructure has to change, the way we supply water, the way we're actually going to treat that water. And so we've basically gathered a whole coalition over the entire value chain of water and energy, as a matter of fact, as well. So we create those systems change, and really the four deliverables we set to ourselves is innovation, for sure. What are those solutions that we will create that will change lives of consumers to get down to 50 liters? Education. What's the leadership voice of responsible yet joyful water consumption in the homes? How we raise awareness amongst consumers and incentivize for habit change, as you said. Last but not least, regulations and policies. What are the regulatory framework or policies we will need to influence or innovate to actually enable those new living? And of course, last is the implementation in pilots. How do we actually demonstrate on the ground in some pilot cities how we can bring that to life? And indeed, we need those different companies and private, public, multi-stakeholders group to create that systems change transversally all together.
Mm-hmm. And just quickly, you mentioned Cape Town, but what other pilot cities are you looking at? Are you allowed to tell me?
Sure. We're not yet at the point of defining exactly the city, but we know which regions we want to focus as a coalition. And they are not very surprising regions, as we know about the water problem. The US and the Bay Area has been severely touched by droughts, and certainly is on the looming Day Zero map. China, water security is a huge topic as we speak. Latin America, an obvious one. Mexico went into Day Zero as well about a year and a half ago, amongst 12 million inhabitants because of an upset in the supply of water. Mm-hmm. And India, also known recently for Day Zero in Chennai and other places. So these are the four regions where we will create pilots, and expectation is within the next year or two we can actually pick the first pilot in one of those four places.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you've talked about how a lot of the water footprint of the company is sort of post operations, so it's in the homes of the people that purchase the products. But what about within own operations? This is something that we've seen a lot of announcements about in 2020, just because wash is so crucial in the context of COVID-19. So what's the company's approach in its own operations, and then further down the supply chains too?
Yeah, I think we really run a water stewardship program at the corporate level, and really across the three buckets. One is really about our own manufacturing plants. The second is the supply of materials to our manufacturing plants. This also takes water, and of course the usage at homes. And so this is the very holistic way we work together behind water stewardship. So from an operation standpoint, few examples. Our air care plant in Mexico recently, adapted lots of sensors to actually create knowledge about the water usage. And from first month of production, we put those sensors in water. We reduced by 10%. We've got, West Virginia new facility is recycling 270 million meter cube of water every year, and actually is the water recycled offset the fresh water. And we are about to join a corporation on the conservation pilots around the Colorado River. So of course, this is a holistic view. And if you look at our progress since 2010, we've reduced by 20% our water intake per unit of production. So of course, as you say, it's fundamental. We look at our own operations as well as the consumer homes.
I just had to ask because there's always a question when a behavior change scheme comes up. They're like, yeah, I'll do it, but what are you doing?
What I'm doing in my home? Is it what your question?
No, I mean, people will always ask a business. They'll say, yeah, I'll use less water for you, but what are you doing in your factories? Which I think is a valid point from that.
It is absolutely critical that we actually do our own water business. But I'm also really literally becoming a 50-liter home. Not to that point yet in my own home. I think it's really important that you yourself are pioneering what's life about when you're at 50-liter home. So I'm handling buckets as we speak in my homes because that's the only things that we have to actually manipulate water from one spot to the other, which obviously tells me a lot about, oh my God, how we can create innovations that can ease that totally for consumers. So I'm actually even myself, a guinea pig, if you will, on my own habits at my own home.
Always switched on, right?
Absolutely. You've got to be obsessed with the problem if you want to really go to the bottom of it, I think.
Great. Well, we're coming to the end of our call, and I wanted to ask a question that we're asking everyone that we have on the call today. And I think you touched a bit on it already, but we're almost at the end of the year. So everyone's going to be in a reflective mood and thinking about what 2021 might bring. So as a professional, what is going to be your New Year's resolution, for at work? And equally, what environmental resolutions would you like to see more businesses making next year as well?
Inspiring questions. On the first one, as far as I'm concerned, of course, bring 50-liter to pilots. Make it on the ground somewhere in the world. Demonstrate that we can make 50-liter feels like 500-liter in a real apartment someplace. So that's really what I'm obsessed about, and bringing it to life in the most concrete way with our partners. The second, you were asking about other businesses. Well, I wish a lot of the decisions, a lot of the sustainability will come from decisions made in the homes of consumers. To be honest, whether it's decisions of consumers about their home, it's decisions of consumers about their food, it's decisions of consumers about the transport they use. A lot of these actually revolve into the homes and the purchasing decisions we're all making. So I'm wishing that a lot of the businesses are going to make sustainable irresistible for all, so that those decisions are truly irresistible for everybody on the planet.
Great. Well, Frantz, thank you so much for your time today. Great insights.
My pleasure, Sarah.